What if I told you that one of the most powerful insulin-sensitizing interventions ever measured in humans didn't involve a single ice cube? No plunge, no shock, no screaming into the void at 5 a.m. just sitting in a chilly room. In 2015, researchers at Maastricht University took 8 men with type 2 diabetes, parked them in a 60-degree room for 6 hours a day, and after just 10 days, their insulin sensitivity jumped by about 43%. That's a number you'd expect from a serious exercise program, and the mechanism behind it isn't what almost anyone on the internet is telling you. Let's talk about the actual research, because the headlines have completely run away with it. The 2015 study published in Nature Medicine by Hansen and colleagues was small but tightly controlled. 8 overweight men, average age around 60, all living with type 2 diabetes. For 10 consecutive days, they spent 6 hours daily in a cooled chamber set to 14 to 15 degrees Celsius, that's about 57 to 59 Fahrenheit. They wore shorts and a t-shirt. Their diet was standardized, exercise was prohibited, so the only variable was the cold. The result, peripheral insulin sensitivity rose by roughly 43%. To put that in context, that's in the same ballpark as what you'd see from months of structured aerobic training. Now here's where it gets interesting, because the popular story is that cold exposure works by activating brown fat, that special calorie-burning tissue we all have a little of. And yes, brown fat does respond to cold, but when the Maastricht team looked closely at where the glucose was actually going in these diabetic patients, brown fat played only a minor role. The real action was happening in skeletal muscle. Specifically, the cold caused a dramatic increase in something called GLUT4 translocation. GLUT4 is the glucose transporter that gets pulled to the surface of your muscle cells so they can soak up sugar from your blood. It's the same transporter that exercise recruits. Cold, it turns out, is doing something exercise-like at the muscle level, but through a different doorway. That's a big deal because it means your body has a second route to clearing blood sugar that we rarely talk about. Now here's the twist that almost no wellness influencer mentions. In 2021, the same research group ran a follow-up. This time, the temperature was slightly warmer, 16 to 17 Celsius, and they actively suppressed shivering by giving participants extra clothing. The result, 0 improvement in insulin sensitivity, no GLUT4 translocation, nothing. The researchers concluded that some degree of muscle activation, those tiny, often imperceptible microshivers, is probably essential for the metabolic effect. So the popular wellness line that just being a little cool is enough may actually miss the point. If you're perfectly comfortable, your muscles aren't contracting, and you may not be getting the payoff. The sweet spot seems to be uncomfortably cool, cool enough that you'd reach for a sweater, with the occasional faint shiver. There's more in the data. Van Mark and Lichtenbelt's group reported that after 10 days of cool acclimation, cold-induced calorie burn went up by about 30%. A separate NIH study by Lee and colleagues found that sleeping in a 66-degree bedroom for 4 weeks roughly doubled brown fat volume and improved insulin sensitivity in healthy young men. Even just 2 hours a day at 66 degrees seems to start recruiting brown fat. So while brown fat isn't the main driver of the diabetes effect, it's still part of a broader picture where mild, sustained cool exposure quietly retunes how your body handles fuel. A quick word on what doesn't work: more is not more. A 2025 study found that daily 14-degree cold water immersion actually temporarily worsened glucose tolerance. Acute, repeated cold water stress is a different beast from sustained, mild ambient cool. It spikes cortisol and adrenaline, and in the short run that pushes blood sugar in the wrong direction. So if you're already doing daily ice baths thinking you're getting the 43% benefit, the research doesn't support that. And one more caveat, the headline number came from older men with type 2 diabetes. Effect sizes in healthy young people are smaller. This isn't magic, it's a metabolic nudge that's most powerful where there's the most room to improve. So how would you put this to work? The simplest lever is your thermostat. Drop it to around 64 to 66 degrees Fahrenheit for several hours a day. Where less indoors, a t-shirt and shorts in a cool room recreates the study conditions. Layering up cancels the benefit. Sleep cooler too, somewhere around 65 to 67 degrees, gives you 7 or 8 free hours of mild cold exposure. Aim for what the researchers describe as uncomfortably cool, occasionally shivering, not frozen. And add a little light movement while you're cool, because the 2021 study suggests muscle activation is part of the recipe. If you have a continuous glucose monitor, a 10-day cool living experiment is an easy way to see whether your numbers actually shift. One important note: if you're on insulin or other glucose-lowering medications, improved insulin sensitivity can change your dosing needs, so loop in your doctor before you run an experiment like this. And if you have Raynaud's, peripheral artery disease, or you're frail or elderly, sustained cool exposure isn't the right tool for you. Here's what the evidence actually says. A 43% jump in insulin sensitivity from 10 days in a chilly room is a real finding, but it came from a small study in a specific population under controlled conditions with at least some shivering involved. The interesting takeaway isn't that cold is a miracle cure. It's that your skeletal muscle has a second pathway for clearing glucose, one that mild cold can switch on. You don't need an ice bath. You probably don't even need to suffer much. You just need to stop overheating your house, let yourself feel a little cool, and give it time. If you found this useful, hit subscribe and I'll see you in the next one. Stay curious and maybe turn the thermostat down a couple of degrees on the way out.